Greetings. First, they came for the energy producers, and I did not speak out because it was always said that we'll find other sources of energy. We've got wind, we've got solar, maybe other things will be found, geothermal, maybe thermonuclear fusion will be made to work. So they tried to get rid of fossil fuel producers and so forth. They tried to get rid of nuclear power. And I didn't speak out because I wasn't an energy producer and because I thought maybe these other ideas will come to fruition, or at least we would try to bring them to fruition all the more quickly if we're encouraged by the lack of more conventional energy sources. Then they came for the whole industrial, the factory workers, the workers themselves, the unions, everybody who did actual manufacturing work in this country. And I didn't speak out because I wasn't a unionist, I wasn't an industrialist, I wasn't a factory worker. And after all, it always seemed to be cheaper to ship all those jobs overseas. Even the cost of shipping stuff from there to here, it still was cheaper because they don't have to pay their workers or worry about environmental consequences of their industrial activities or a lot of other things. They didn't have to give them safe working conditions. Somebody dies, drops on the job, just grind them under the gears and keep on rolling. That's how things are in a lot of these other countries where you get stuff cheap. So I didn't speak out. Then they came for the MAGA Republicans. And I did not speak out because I was not a MAGA Republican. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. I'm, of course, updating a fairly well-known quote, but this is how it is today. And we really need to do something here, and I think we need to remember the key thing here is we need to really get out the vote, and I think there's a real chance we can. But let's think about this. Okay, maybe you're not one of them. Well, let's see, what does it mean, first of all, to be a MAGA Republican? Probably the most obvious and most superficial thing is maybe you remember how things were just a few years ago during the Trump years. Inflation was low, prosperity was high, families had more real income, salary is against cost of everything than they've ever had in, at least a few decades. They really had it good. We had it really good. We might have complained about this or that, but actually we look back and we realize, we had it a whole lot better then than we do now. Now with inflation out of control, not enough fuel, Europeans are going to be in a world of hurt because they're not going to have enough energy to heat their homes this winter. They're in for some tough times. I feel sorry for them, but they've fallen for this kinds of stuff too. And we're we're going down that same path, and we've been down that same path, and we're seeing the effects of it. But we've also seen other things that are just unbelievable. Let's just say if Trump had pulled these kinds of stunts, oh man, they'd be all over him in ways that, what we have seen doesn't even begin to show. Okay, imagine pulling out of Afghanistan so quickly. We don't leave anybody there to kind of keep things under control, to kind of encourage stuff to work out, to kind of provide guidance for people to that are still there, so that they don't just kind of turn and run because they're on their own all of a sudden. And next thing you know, billions of dollars of military hardware are donated, to these towelhead, terrorists, who couldn't begin to make such things, but they sure as heck can figure out how to work it. And so that's got to be, or this continuing problem going on where everyone could just come in the southern border, and that's what they're doing. They just walk in anywhere, everywhere. Yeah. I mean, can we really put up with this? Do we really want this? This lack of fighting crime, let the criminals out free, you know? Take away your guns, but let the criminals buy them whatever they want, you know? I mean, gangs used to make their money from drugs. Well, they still do. They also make their money selling, guns to, their own, those who are sympathetic to their gangster drug dealing activities. They'll have the guns. We, by and large, increasingly will not. So, again, just the ordinary person who works for a living. But that's only one part of it. Remember, we were energy independent. We produced our own fuel. And we did it through plants that did it with rules that saw to it about how the workers were taken care of, their working conditions, the environmental impact of their activities. All these things were carefully monitored and checked, and we were the cleanest users and creators of energy on the planet. We still are, to what limited extent any of that still goes on now, but it's been cut down and cut down and cut down, and they're still trying to reduce it even now. Try to get oil from somebody else or use up our reserves. What's going to happen when we don't have our reserves and suddenly we need them? All of this is part of how we got slightly better gas prices in the last month or so. But that hasn't really helped very much. There's a lot of things we count on that are no longer being made, and it's just a matter of inventory getting used up. And then, so there's a lot of things like that going on. There's a gross mismanagement of things going on in our country. We already saw the baby formula shortage that went for a while, just like that. Boom, there wasn't any. For how long? And even now, I think they're just beginning to get some coming back again. But there's going to be a lot more of that. Now, there's more. What else is it? What is a MAGA Republican really all about? A MAGA Republican is somebody who believes in applying the Constitution. That's it. We're the real constitutionalists. The others will exploit the document if they can and ignore it where they can't, for their own, nefarious ends. But they'll exploit it where they can and ignore it where they can't, use it and abuse it. And, they don't believe in a rule of law. We believe in a consistent application of the laws. That's truly for everyone. They want even different applications for different categories of people. We're certainly one of the main victims, but there's still a number of things like, some racist policies still exist. But guess who's sustaining those? It's not us. When we find those things, we purge them. But the left keeps those things because it's a way of saying, oh, other people are bad while they're the ones creating the bad situation. That's really true. So, what can we do? Our main thing is, our main last chance at a true and proper solution is the ballot box. You say, well, what chance have we got? They've gamed the system. Well, they do. But how far can you really game the system? I don't think it's that far. Here's the thing. Let's look at what happened recently in Wyoming. Liz Cheney was hated, and justly so, by the Wyomings, since it was theirs to do the voting. She ignored their concerns. She ignored their interests. She's devoted herself to destroying the man who did more for their prosperity in recent years than almost any other single individual has done, maybe ever. Certainly in many decades, maybe ever. And she's just trying to destroy the guy out of some perverse desire to destroy some random citizen that never hurt anybody. That's just malevolent malice is all it is. So they wanted to vote against her. Now, here's the thing. If she were to have at her disposal all the same mechanisms of voter fraud and so forth that Biden had in 2020, would she have been able to steal the election? And I have to answer that, no. Categorically not. Do you know why? because the majority that wanted her out was very huge, palpable. You see, this is the thing. It's not enough for us to win by a 50.5% victory. We all know they've gamed the system enough. They can make that 0.5 victory just disappear, and they will, like they did in 2020. Okay? Now, if we could win by a 55% victory, well, give or take the place, there might be a lot of places where they couldn't make that go away. In some places they might. They might make it go away, California, or some of these other very, very deep blue, Maryland, or some of these other deep blue states that, there's just no accountability, no voter tracking or anything. But, you get up to 60% or better, See, she lost by, I think, 29 percentage points. If she were to apply every trick of the trade there was, everything used, you name it, fake ballots, printed ballots, harvested ballots, the mules, 2,000 mules, voting machines tweaked to weigh one kind of vote more than another, and all these different kinds of things. If they were to apply all these strategies, dead people voting, you name it, all the people voting from P.O. boxes listed as if they were apartment numbers, people from out of state coming in to vote, multiple times because they still have their own states they vote in, and on and on and on, and apply all of this stuff full bore, she might have been able to add maybe another 5 to 10%. And she would still have lost. 29% behind changes to maybe 16%, or 19% or 23% or something behind. The key thing is she'd still been behind. She'd still be gone. She'd still be disappearing from the political world, and good riddance, thank goodness. And America at least heaves a sigh of relief. You see? That's what we need. It's easy to say, oh, my vote won't count. Every vote matters. It doesn't matter if we're winning. A narrow win is not enough. We know they'll make it disappear. A big win cannot be canceled. And give or take where we are just determines how big of a win we need to do. So that's one thing. And who knows? Oh, well, my state's so deep blue, there's not a chance that we're going to do it. Don't be so sure. We're not the only ones wanting to set things straight. We're not the only ones who realize political prisoners have been treated in ways that are flagrant violations of the Constitution. You see, we believe in a lot of this stuff. We believe these are good things that America had. The Constitution, that is. The Constitution talks about, unreasonable search and seizure. Well, we already saw it happen at Mar-a-Lago and other places. So much for the Fourth Amendment. It doesn't apply. We see what they've been trying to do with the Second Amendment for decades, and they're still ramping that up now. We see what they use the COVID thing to do to freedom of religion, freedom of assembly. To say nothing of the freedom of speech has been curtailed with a lot of tech support. These freedoms are guaranteed, but they're being destroyed. They're being eroded. Do you care about freedom of speech? Do you care about freedom of religion? Do you care about freedom to assembly? Freedom to publish things? These were all things. The right, to bear arms should you need to do so. Me, I can't really use that right. I'm useless as a shot. I tried it. I bought a gun, did some target practice, and the only thing it showed me is that I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. But there's a lot of good people out there who do. And, I hope we don't have to come to that. That should be for immediate self-defense. But here's the thing. The ballot box is really America's last chance to restore herself through a proper legal process. I don't know what recourse exists after that. I don't want to think about that. I don't think we really want to have to go there. That's why we have to win at the ballot box. And we all go. All of us. And anybody who's concerned about these things and knows this is what you do. You put in as absolutely many Republicans as you can. The big offices, the little offices, fight all the crazy stuff that goes on in our schools, and through who you put in for the local school boards and superintendents. You say the mayors of the cities, the city council people. You may have to dig a little bit, but find out who's there and who's with us and who's against us. And we all have to do these votes, because who knows? I think, if we really do what we need to do, this could be we need a major red wave. Because getting back to that quote I started with, it could start with that. What's it going to end with? Do you remember? It's like right now, being a MAGA Republican in America today is like being a Jew in Germany in, say, 1935. Maybe they haven't done anything to us just yet, or at least not very many of us. But they're going around, oh, these are bad people, these are terrible people, they need to be destroyed, they need to be rooted out, let's get rid of them. We got a Jewish problem, we got this problem, now we got a MAGA Republican problem, That's what they call it now. In short, if you're just a regular, normal, freedom-loving American who wants to go to work, have a job, raise a family, and just do the normal things and be free to speak your opinions without having to defend your right to simply say things, even if it's stupid things you might regret, that's your right. And if you want those kinds of things, we are on the brink of losing all that stuff to a far greater degree. And maybe, you don't have to like some of these people. You don't have to like Trump. He can be an abrasive person sometimes. But I think we'll all remember that abrasive or whatever it was, his era was the best one this country had. Well, okay, the disease came along, but we all know he had nothing to do with that. He did his best to fight it, but everybody was scrambling, and nobody, we fought this the way we fought the Spanish flu 100 years before, like a bunch of chickens running around with their heads cut off. So, we don't learn, and 100 years from now, if there's another plague, we'll probably do the same stuff again. That's just how things are. But here it is. Those of us still here have survived. We're moving on. And the key thing is we've made it past all of that. And is there any real hope? Well, as it stands now, there's one small hope that we can look at. The Jews really had a pretty short end of the stick. For one thing, they were a relatively small minority. If it's just 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 out of 100 people, they could disappear and maybe you wouldn't notice too much. What happened to the so-and-sos down the street? Oh, they got sent to a work camp. Yeah, wink, wink. Well, you try to do the same to the MAGA Republicans, you're going to need a lot more work camps. Not just because you got a lot more, bigger country in general, but because we're half of America at least. And probably some of those who aren't of that half are still decent human beings who can look and say, look, I don't agree with a lot of this stuff on the right, but I'll tell you what, I think, I'm seeing what's happening here, and it's gotten so wild and so extreme that I'm having to vote for things I never would have thought I'd vote for before, just because I don't want to see the America that's, for all its flaws, has kept us going as well as it has, just disappear. And we need to reach those people. And we need them to vote too. And hopefully most of them will vote, in a constructive way. You say, because there's going to be a lot of others who won't. We need to outdo them. And here's the thing. I think we could be, if we really do this, I think we could be surprised. We may have victories in states so deep blue, you wouldn't have expected it at all. I think that can happen. And and we can do a whole lot more than I think we're hoping. But we're going to have to do this. Don't assume, oh, well, I got a red state, it doesn't matter. No, I think you still need to. You don't want to win by 50.5. I already told you what happens to that. We need to win by better than 60%. Then there's no way they can make it go away. It's there, it's real, it's indisputable. Okay? And like I said, who's to say that even some deep blue state might still have at least two places where there's enough people there that are concerned citizens. Do you have to be a Jew to think what the Germans were doing to them was a bad thing? You know, I'm not a Jew, but, you know, I certainly oppose that, you know. So, should you have to be, you know, specifically a MAGA Republican to hate the idea of seeing the MAGA Republicans rounded up and gassed to death in showers without water? You know, do you have to be that? I'm willing to assume that at least some folks out there, you know, they may be registered Democrat, they may have generally leaned that way, but many of them are not willing to go that far. And that's enough. That could be enough. You know, you talk about a battle for the soul of America. This is the battle. And hearing the other guy talk about that, you know, most soulless person I've seen in a very long time, going on about this, the irony of it. Just, I'd laugh, only as the saying goes, this is so serious. That's not funny. And I'll end this here. Thanks for listening.